Well, let's move on from that particular story this morning, and the next stop is the fact that let's have this conversation about the 2025 budget. The National Assembly Committee has said that they are, they have done due diligence to, the work that was saddled in their responsibility. They have done due diligence to the 2025 budget. Now, remember that there has been all kinds of controversies that have been thrown up as a result of having different agencies of government coming to defend their budget. Aisha Kolede of JAM came under fire. We saw different other persons, different other agencies actually slog it out, especially with, having Adams Oshomole sitting on that table. Quite a number of fracas fell out, but it was important that due diligence be done in the process, of which now we see the Deputy Spokesman actually saying that due diligence has been done on the 2025 budget. But to say that due diligence has been done, I think that there are two critical stakeholders that would decide if that is true. First of all, Nigerians are the ones to decide whether due diligence has been done. And number two, the key stakeholders in these different ministries and agencies that this budget allocation is going to be given to get the work done. Remember, the part of the critical conversations that we kept seeing out of the committee meeting with different stakeholders and MDAs was the fact that some of us are underfunded for the quality of work that we expected to do, and some of them said, we'll not take it, it has to be increased. That is a serious concern. We've also seen the committee increase the budget allocation for some agencies, and others, have been even brought down in terms of, rather go and increase your revenue generation because you have the capacity to. But there's several details with regards to the 2025 budget.
The 2025 budget, no doubt, has been one of the most controversial defense and presentations that we've seen, with different reactions, like you rightly stated. But of course, from the standpoint of the National Assembly members, who, by the way, represent the interests of Nigerians, or should represent the interests of Nigerians, you're looking at, the committee by committee, the ministry, departments, and agencies of government taking their turns to argue out the issues. I think aside from the presentation, the fact that some could not also explain how they were able to utilize the budget of 2024 also raised some very valid points, very valid concerns also, pointing direction as to if you were not able to account for 2024, how will you be able to account for 2025? And why should we even give you this much in 2025 when, your expenses of last year is riddled with inconsistencies, that needs to be addressed? That is on one end. And then you're also talking about the envelope system, where the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation just sits down and believe that, this ministry, this department, this agency of government can make do with these, and so they just put a figure up there, for the agency or for the ministry or for the department, without understanding what services the ministry does and how that can be interpreted into funding, process of funding, needs of funding deficits, judging from previous fundings that have been, made. There have been a couple of ministries that are doing a great job, departments in the same vein, but are not, properly funded. Remember, the Ministry of Justice, a certain department under the Ministry of Justice, came out with that mind that, the jobs they do, the responsibility entrusted to them and the funds allocated to them are grossly inadequate for them to be able to do the job that is assigned to them, or even do as much as is expected of them, which also required extra, increment on the part of the National Assembly members. But this could be avoided if we do not have somebody sitting as the Accountant General of the Federation and believing that just because they're in that office, they have a wherewithal to understand the intricacies and how the different ministries work and how their work can be summed up into a financial number, and then that being presented as what their yearly take would be given. You're also looking at the fact that in the last year budget, there were ministries that were given certain budgetary allocation, but up until today, we're looking at just about 20 to 25% of that budgetary provisions being released to the ministry, which also raised a very valid question and concerns. What happens to the 70, 75 percentage of allocation that is yet to be released to the ministry? And if you give somebody 1 billion naira to work for a fiscal year, and you end up releasing 20 million, how do we measure the level of proficiency? How do we measure the level of commitment, the quality of work that the ministry or agency or department of government has done when you've not even provided the funds? I remember one of those that kick-started another conversation of not big enough was the Minister of Works, David Mai, when he said I think 700 billion naira that has been voted is not enough to fix Nigerian roads, and that is a conversation that raised a lot of concerns. We know in Nigeria, road is one of the biggest problems that we have. Dilapidated or poorly constructed roads. You're looking at roads that are worn out. You're looking at roads that were not constructed to last over a long period of time. You're looking at roads that are in the worst state at this moment, and what it will cause the federal government for the federal roads to be able to fix those problems for the betterment of Nigeria. So there's a whole lot of issues, but I like the fact that the committees have recommended that going forward we should not be using the envelope system of budgeting, but rather allow the ministries and departments to put forth what they expect would be able to cater to their services and the mandates that have been entrusted to them, and then put that up there. And if they're able to defend it within the National Assembly and give reasons why they should be given, and if we have the money in our coffers, or we can, of course, we always borrow to augment the budget, then we go ahead and borrow. But let's just make sure that whatever is being done is in the interest of Nigerians, and that no agency have a reason to say, look, I would have done more if I was given more. I was only able to achieve this because this is the little or the much I was given.
Well, at the end of the day, one of the critical things is that the lawmakers in Nigeria have said that the use of the envelope system of budgeting is actually undemocratic. So when you see a democratic government, in the words of the lawmakers, using an undemocratic system to plan for its budgeting, that's a major concern. You have already listed some of the experiences that we would have in continuing with this envelope system. So when you put the cry of the lawmakers side by side with the committee saying that they have done due diligence, at the end of this due diligence that has been done, it is expected that they're going to go back with recommendations to the executive arm and say, hey, look, these are some of the encumbrances that we had in processing departments and agencies for the budget of 2025. What can we do differently in 2026 to see that the process is different? Now, there are a few benefits of using the envelope budgeting system. It will help to visually track expenditure. It will also put spending control. If your systems are transparent, you should be able to exert control of the envelope system, and that's why I think that Nigeria have subscribed to the envelope system before now. In some people's words, they believe that the envelope system is simple to just grasp, but lawmakers are saying it has more pocket holes than we are even willing to deal with. Overspending is one thing that the envelope system also looks to guard, because when you say that an agency can come and just give you whatever their budget is for the year, remember that they are going to be in Nigeria, we suffer the issue of budget padding. Someone would just say they want to do this. It's not a necessity. It's not a pivotal assignment that the agency should be looking at, but because they can determine what they are getting, these are some of the downturns that we'll see. And it encourages savings. That's another thing. Would you think that in looking to help in saving resources in Nigeria is where we have found ourselves? I mean, the lawmakers are already talking about the fact that we have not even expended the 2024 budget, and we are about to put in place 2025 budget. If we didn't expend 2024 budget, what happened? Are we going to see repatriation of the funds? Which means we had allocated monies for projects in 2024 that were not done. Now, having a budget and allocating these monies are two different things, but you also have to consider agencies that have received allocations for projects that have not been done. How do we reconcile this? So there's a big question of accountability and transparency in the process of all of this. But we do hope that the committee will look into it, with more scrutiny, as they have already said that they scrutinize the process of the 2025 budget. But we hope that they keep tweaking the system such that it's in favor of democracy and the good people of Nigeria at the end of the day.
Definitely. That's the line of thought that Nigerians would want to go. But then also, it will depend on significantly the willpower of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. If the president is committed to seeing a change in the narrative, I remember one of the things that gained traction was the National Assembly members telling a ministry or department of government that budgetary allocations will not be provided for them until they have provided proper documentations and evidences of how they have been able to utilize the 2024 budget, which is something that should be done in the spirit of transparency, accountability, and service to the Nigerian society. But can we see that being done across the different departments of government? The answer at this point would be a debate, because while the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary exists, we cannot say for a fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would be able to make that decision of withholding or not even budgeting for the next fiscal year. Because the next thing that would have followed this would be if, for instance, Ministry A was given a budgetary provision for 2024, and in 2024 December, they have not expended that. The government has not released all of the funds. So why not just move the remaining part of what was budgeted in 2024 and what has been done and balance it up and release the funds in 2025? So they continue with the work as opaque compared to waking up in another year, having a whole new budget drawn up for the ministry or department or agency, and then we still continue with the same cycle of you budget 50 million, you release 10 million, and then 40 million is left, and then we got into the next year, you budget again, and we keep having this deficit both on the side of performance and on the side of release of funds. So it's really something that if the National Assembly members are able to do, would change the narrative for Nigeria in terms of budgeting. But then it's going to be largely dependent on the executive, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is at the center of that.